Alright, guys. Hello again. Hubby Porn Star back with the wet hair look like it's been raining, man. Like, this weather is so gay. But actually, it reminds me of China when I used to climb the hill, and this video isn't about rain or ranting about the rain, it's actually about racism. And it reminded me of China where, climbing the hill all those hours and subtropical weather. 1 minute it'd be bright and fucking sunny, humid as hell. Your shirt is sopping with sweat. Uh, and the next minute it'd be drenched with rain. And the next nanosecond or so, it felt like uh, it would be drenched with sweat again. I mean, and that isn't the way I'm saying this. If you read James Hadley Chase, the vulture is a patient bird. So am I. I'm not a bird. I, all right, I'm gonna get in trouble, but all right, I'm not a bird, but yeah, I like hawks, link hawk, over the top. I mean, they have these symbols in movies for a reason. They mean something. I love hawks. I remember Trump. He once held the bald-haired eagle like this, and he was kind of scared it would bite or whatever. It would peck more likely, and for me, and then its handler was like, no problem. For me, it's like, I've had a hawk alight here, I've had one alight here, and I just kind of kept walking, like, not a care in the fucking world, because animals love me. Monkeys that bite other people come up to me and just stare like this. Cats do that. Even the most aggressive dogs that, they're not trained, they got muzzles on and all that, I've figured out a way to get in their brain, and they just kind of look and, oh, okay, whatever. So you haven't heard my anti-dog rant. So I was going to do an anti-feminism rant, but we all know the bullshit there. So I figured, I didn't really know what today's video was going to be about. I've been searching for an answer all day, and then I got, this. I've been having flashbacks. I often have them. Like, I think about things. I think about things very deeply. I'm a deep thinker, as you guys know. Charles Michel, one of my great customers, he was like, you see things very clearly. Well, I do, but I'll spend a lot of time analyzing. Like this morning, I was smoking a fag out there, or a cigarette, whatever you fucking call it, or having a nice smoke, and some guy walks up to me, and I was like, because most people these days are such idiots, I just stay away from them. And, the middle-class women, and especially older women, they're going to be like, the smoke hurts us, even though you're not anywhere near them. They're triggered. They got to find an excuse. And so I just walked away. I mean, that's what I do when I see 99.9% of people. I avoid them. And, he got it. He walked away too, So it says I can literally transmute that, because I was hoping, I was picturing him, stopping and then going back. And then he did it. And, that's how I handle things, A lot of people think, I talk about guns and knives. I'm this horribly violent, psychopathic person. No, in many ways, I am a psychopath. However, I don't actually physically kill people. Now, you could argue Hannibal Lecter was bad, but good or bad is subjective, and he only killed pedophiles and, Anyway, racism, man. I remember this, so I, basically, after I was an adult, let's say, or not an adult, a major, or in some countries an adult, I don't know. I mean, even before I was a major, at the age of 17, I showed up in the deep South. I had no idea. Well, before that, I showed up when I was 15, but not in the South. That was the North, and them damn Yankees. I done told you, you know the difference between the North and the South, and it persists till this day, and I love it. And, I love the North. I've been to Schenectady, I've been to New York, I've been to California, which I kind of liked when I was there. I don't know if I'd like it now with all the protests and all that going on. I mean, it's insane. They have, like, Trump is dead rallies. I mean, it's horrible. I mean, how can you wish death upon anyone just because you don't agree with them? And how can you, and he's one of the greatest presidents ever. In fact, I would argue, arguably in many ways, the greatest president. And he can't control Israel. I mean, he can't control Russia. We all know that. everybody's like, oh, but he did this to India, he did this to India. Well, India, number one, deserves it. Reciprocity is key. They weren't doing that. They did it. I mean, that's business. And, nobody gives two shits about India. People just are politically correct, and it's a nice background and excuse for, oh, we have this ally, but this ally really has neither any real economic might or military might. China's the real one. But even them in the future, Russia and America will be the two major players, I believe. But we'll see. But I think I'm right. My predictions are never wrong. But so Deep South, I was told, stay away from the Chinese girls. I was told, it's the most racist place in the world. Those white people, I was programmed with all that, pre-programmed. But like y'all know, I've never really allowed myself to be completely programmed. I had to cope in very brutal ways, but I never really ever since, beyond the age of 3, I was kind of forced to become a very deep thinker, and I've always been that. So I show up, I don't even know how to use a fucking laundromat. I mean, I don't know if they still use them. Now it's probably all QR, well, it is QR scanned. But I mean, back in the day, you used to put coins, and push that little thing in, and that little thing. I love my southern accent, and then it would work. I didn't know how to do that, and I still remember, man, my first job in Florida, I was like, this was after I graduated and all that, and I was like, hey, Jim, I mean, I wasn't born in America. And he was like, well, you have a southern accent. And I'm like, I'm trying to get rid of it. I wasn't really. But he's like, it shows. And, this was after. It was funny, my accent and all that. My uncle, at the time, he had been there for I think 25 years. And he told me one December, you've done within 3 months, which none of us could do. You could argue they never tried, but I bet they did, I bet they did. So he meant, the accent thing. And because I had it. I mean, my English was good even before I went there, or I would say long-term went there, because I don't want to tell you exactly everything. But long-term, let's just say, it was good. But it was nothing like what you hear now. Nothing at all. Right now, I'm a hobby porn star. I'm a fucking chameleon. I could be British. I could be, from New York. I could be from Mississippi. I could be from anywhere. Then I kind of changed it to adopt a more universal accent. And it helped me. Englishman from New York, they call me. And I told you why, because nobody could fucking understand me in the South. The white people could kind of understand, but there was always that, oh, where are you from? And I got tired of explaining it. And the black dudes just, and this, I've told you, guy standing next to me, brushing, real nice guy, RA, we had this system of resident assistant. He was supposed to be the boss. But in reality, nobody gave two shits. We all brought girls back, and nobody cared. We were brushing our teeth together, and I'm like, good morning. And he's like, huh? I'm like, good morning. Kind of like what happened right now. This employee's son, he looks at me and he says something like, huh? And he's like, good afternoon. And I'm like, okay, good afternoon. He was saying that. Sometimes I can't understand what people say, And he's like, good afternoon, sir. And I'm like, yeah, good afternoon. And so that was one reason. But my English was never poor or anything, That was one of the few good things about my upbringing. Reading was always, now I'm not saying no physical activity was good, no. But reading, helped that. But at English, math, I was always good at these things. But, so, yeah. I will tell you, first of all, other than one instance where even that might not have been racism per se. I mean, after 9/11, I was walking home one Friday afternoon, and some motherfucker, maybe it was Providence or my eternally sexy instinct that made me look like this, like girls do, and bang, this car was coming like that. And I had a dream about that, a couple of nights ago, and it happened, here too. But in this case, it wasn't any race. I mean, it was just people driving crazy. But yeah, that was a whisker. That was a big old Ford truck, good old redneck driving it, and I could just imagine the rifle at the back. And that was one instant, which may have been that right after 9/11, but I think people were just pissed off or drunk, because everybody used that as an excuse to get drunk. The professors canceled class. But I did have one boy from the South, like big old thick guy. I was just walking back home late at night, and he kind of like looked at me, and I just looked back. I wasn't staring at him. I was actually kind of thick guy. So he was going to the gym, and he's like, "What are you staring at, asshole?" And I'm like, "What?" I mean, because it was. I mean, there was no aggression or anything. It was just I was just looking. It was like, I mean, and then he made some racist comment. I can't really remember what. He's like, "I'll knock your teeth in," and that's what he told me. My friend Ruben, another redneck from the South, boy, I love that guy. There's a goddamn thunderstorm coming. I gotta get. I tell you. Anyway, and he was there, but he didn't say anything, and I just, and then the dude just ran away because I was still in like not in shock, but I was thinking like, what? So maybe he was, racist or pissed off, or probably more than racist. He was pissed off about something. And you know me, either people like me or they don't. And so probably. And what would have happened if my white friend wasn't there? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But other than those two, and those also may not be racism, I've never experienced any what they call actual discrimination. Now, of course, it wasn't like it is these days. These days, if you're colored or black or Kamala Harris, we still don't know if she's Indian or black. Sometimes she's Indian, sometimes she's black. We never know. I mean, right? Like, these days, you get far more privilege. Like, white privilege is a thing of the past, man. Jim Crow, may God bless or not bless his soul as you look upon it, passed away a long fucking time ago. That's just the bottom line. Look, everybody, is racist. And the point of this is racism is actually very logical. It's fun. We've covered why before. You can call your friends sand niggers or dumb dagos or crackers or whatever the hell, or cocks. But it's logical and it's simple. Like, and I've covered this so many times before, but this race issue keeps cropping up on Twitter, everywhere I see. Oh, the wet hair, look, I notice anyway. I just can't get over how sexy I am, man, quite literally. But everybody, let's keep it simple. You look at a brown person, what do you think? Oh, he's Indian, he shits on the roads. You look at a white person, what do you think? Oh, he's educated, he's got money, middle class, suburbs. You look at a black person, what do you think? Gangbang, or gangster, but probably more gangbang, That's just what it is. And the blacks that I actually, or you think he got out of the ghetto, that's just what it is. You look at an older white person, good old redneck, good old-fashioned white, old school, not necessarily racist, by the way. And, it's interesting. People can use the term redneck, but they can't say nigger. Why? If you can say nigger, then you say redneck. If you can't say nigger, you shouldn't be allowed to say redneck either, because that could be, I don't know. I've been called a redneck. I've been called a cowboy, and I kind of like it. I kind of like cowboy even better, because that's really who I am at the core. I want to be left alone. So I don't mind when people call me a psychopath. And I say it. I'm like the guy in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He lives in this, I don't live in a nasty place, right? But he lives in this basement. You don't even hear about him. It's all blood and guts, corpses all over the place. But you wouldn't ever find him unless you actually tried. But once you cross that line, that motherfucking steel door opens and he's banged like that with a big-ass chainsaw. So you don't bother him. That's all. And he's not going to bother you. That's how I am. And then there was an instance where, swimming pool again. I think it was Ruben I think it was him. and we were swimming in the apartment pool, which was next to ours. And you weren't technically supposed to do it, but it was, those tiny blocks of apartments. Everybody, it was good old, Southern style. Everybody knew each other, country boys. And so we often, we went there. And the caretaker, he was like, "You don't live here." And he looked at me one afternoon. Now, my history professor, used to live there. And so I used to often go there myself, and my history professor saw me, but I was always fantastic at history, and he didn't give two shits. He was like, hello, okay. There you are. You didn't show up for class. You're swimming. Remember I told y'all, like, Dr. Colabal, math teacher, professor, he was like, "Are you ever going to show up for class? You get straight A's and everything, but you don't show up." And then we had that conversation about Mickey Mouse classes, and then he brought out this motherfucker from Princeton. He was like, "You don't need to be taking these Mickey Mouse classes. You need to be taking this." I'm like, all right, that's real calculus. God dog. But anyway, that was, and then Ruben was like, "If it had been a couple of white boys, he wouldn't have said that. I tell you, Rose." That guy, man, he's classic. I love that dude. He's helped me out so often. I love that dude, when I needed it. And then, likewise. And maybe. But then, is it wrong? Because he might have thought this brown boy is going to piss in the pool. Although people of all skin colors do it. And I'll let you in on a little secret. I've actually pissed in public swimming pools when I was a little kid, too. I mean, everybody was doing it. It wasn't an open secret, but, people, you can sort of tell. I've done a lot of things I technically, but I'm telling you, like, when I do these videos, I'm just talking to you like a friend. I'm talking to you like then we had, a professor, Dr. B, we'll just leave him. Every motherfucker called him racist, black guys. And the white guys, some didn't like him, some liked him. For me, he was always, I found him awesome. Very transparent, very awesome. He was a bit crabby sometimes, at times. If you slept on his class, he used to carry this big-ass golf stick to class, and he'd just bang like that, and he'd wake you up right next to the desk. He'd like, "Don't be sleeping in my class." Now, you couldn't say that, because people, you can't really tell a student not to do that, at least not in America. In other countries, yeah, but which is why I brutally triggered all the people when I once went to grad school in the subcontinent. They took one look at me and they're like, "We're going to have to bring him a peg down or two." And I didn't even do anything. I was just being me. I was just being normal. They wanted a submissive, "Yes, sir, yes, ma'am," kind of bullshit, I wasn't going to do that. But so he was called racist and, all this, but I don't know. I never experienced any racism from him or anything. We're still in contact. The real one that, is interesting, we had another Dr. B, yin and yang. Good old school Brit guy, had a beard this long, and that motherfucker had this accent, British accent clipped, and he was very eccentric. So we gave him a very hard time in class, man. I remember he was like, one day he was explaining some velocity or some bullshit in class. And so he used this example of a plane. And I'm like, "Dr. B, is that the plane you flew in on to America?" And by that time, the entire class it was mostly guys. The girls wouldn't say anything. The class had their, fill off teasing him, let's just say. And he's like, "Bro," it's like, I give up. This dude. And it was funny. But I had guys copy my work openly in that class, and he kind of knew it. He couldn't prove it. But he gave me an F for that class, and a lot of people told me, "Because you gave him such a hard time." Now, the reason I got an F for the class is because, we had this midterm, the final paper, and we could do all the research we wanted. But I believe he said in class you should quote everything you say, which is why I'm such a one of the reasons I'm such a not the primary reason for being a quote stickler. So what happened, long and short, I did my research. I just forgot to quote one paragraph. I think, I don't know, something, one line, and he just So maybe he was looking for an excuse to get rid of me. But the real, or punish me for, I mean, it wasn't just me. He gave me an F. But then the last time he gave another Indian dude the F was because it was actually proven that he copied from a Pakistani dude, and he gave the Pakistani dude a C for allowing it. But it was all proven with the white dude that he was kind of smart. Another B, his last name, I'm not going to mention him. But he kind of did it smartly, so whatever. But he took me apart once, and he's like, "Where are you from?" And by that time I done got tired of explaining where I originally, all that long story, and so I was like, "Jackson, Mississippi," and he's like, "Okay, but where?" I just told you. I'm from Jackson. End of story. And he does this. My arm was out. He picks at it. This is not Jackson skin. I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, this is not Jackson skin. And then I told him, I gave him. I'm like, all right, old man, I'll give you the fucking background. And I gave it to him, and he was happy with it. He was like, then I told a black girl, and I was working with her, big old black girl, extremely fat too. But I was working with her, I believe, on a project in another class. So there's something, and her name, Emily, and she was like, boy, if that had happened to me, I'd have gone to the dean. And I'm like, yeah, with a black person. Now with me, I mean, whatever. I'm half white anyway. I mean, they all call me a white man trapped in an Indian body, or, I mean, I don't even know what the fuck I am. I'll get called Indian, Spanish. I'll be, multicultural pimp, they call me. He's got the hair, he's got the girl. That's what they've always said. Jesus is all the girls. It's funny, Jesus never had any girls, but they call me, because Jesus was supposedly he was celibate. I think he was, anyway. Because he's God, right? So God is, he just creates. He doesn't need to fornicate. But, yeah, and so after the F, I spoke to the girl about it, and she was like, that's racism, that he did that. And then I'm like, well, what he really meant, only he was a crabby old Brit, that, maybe he wanted to say we ruled you guys for like so many years, but he couldn't say that. So he said, and if he knew that if he would say it directly, then he'd get, hammered. Although he was tenured, and if you're tenured, you can say that kind of shit. You can say women are all whores in front of your female students, and there's not much they can do about it. They can reprimand you, the professor, but that's unless you do something really bad, it's not. So was it racist? I mean, maybe in the technical definition of the word, yeah, but it's logical. I mean, I've always found white people to be the most logical. Black people, colored people, not so much. White people, and that's how white people built civilization. I mean, in America, you have all these race issues, and I keep telling them, ultimately, it's a white culture. White people built it. You gotta accept it. Of course, white people themselves are so cucked and feminized that they don't understand, or they are unwilling to admit that they're being bred out of extinction by us Habibs. We just take all your girls. Because a lot of Habibs are not like me, they're cocks, and they cock them just as brutally. Yes, it's just women. And they get to show, oh, I'm such an open girl, I'm dating somebody from a different race in a country or whatever, and all that bullshit. And, was that racism? I don't know. I mean, here's the bottom line to all this, man. It's money. When rich people get together, nobody talks about race. Nobody fucking talks about skin color. Nobody cares, I mean, isn't everybody racist? We all interact with people differently. I remember Miss G, or Mrs. G, she used to be my boss back when I worked in college on campus, I believe computer lab, and I always found her pretty nice, older southern lady. There was never any racism or any aggression, but with my friend, he couldn't stand her because, I think he whispered something to me in class once, but she told him, and she never really told me anything at all. I don't know why, but she told him, she mentioned his name and, you need to pay, and kind of like a school teacher would a little kid, and he was 32 at the time. She was probably 55 or so, and he got so pissed off. The motherfucker got drunk, and he fucking dropped the entire semester, man. Now, was that racism? No. I mean, it just, to me, it wasn't racism because they were both white, both from the South, the deep South. It's funny, all these recollections and remembrances, I love sharing them with my tribe. Not everything is racist, man. Not everything is fucking. You can't just say, oh, he's black, so, or oh, he's white, so he got where he was. And ultimately, the cream rises to the top, the cream of the crop. It can be of any color, I mean, so long as it's not sour, it'll succeed, It's in human terms, so long as you're not bitter about your background, where you're from, your upbringing, this, that, all that other bullshit. And you're going to succeed, Stop using race as a crutch and learn to love your race if you're a white person, because if you hate it, well, logically speaking, all the progress brought to the world might just disappear. I'm saying this as a non-white person, and, if you're, like you have all this, Indians go to America, then they complain, oh, they're so racist, how dare they say this against us, that we shit on the roads and this, and when I say we, I mean Indians, not, but I'm saying, well, you look at the roads, you take one walk out on the roads in India, it's fact. People still do it, dogs do it, animals, it's like a fucking zoo, literally. There's no lanes on the roads. I mean, yeah, you may have a couple of show highways, but that's about it. It's pathetic. And even on those, you have cows that come in and sit in the middle. So you'll see traffic on a fucking 6-lane highway, 3 lanes, maneuvering around a motherfucking cow that decided to sit down right in the middle of the road, and nobody wants to move it because it's apparently holy. Or, I don't know, maybe they just don't want to move it. But, yeah, not everything is racist, and stop using it as a crutch. See y'all later.